You know, when I was growing up, I thought about foreign aid as helping people in foreign countries who needed food or shelter, who were struggling because their country was having a civil war and they'd been cut off from having clean water, enough food for their families, some place for shelter. I think that's what most Americans think foreign aid is, that we want to help people around the world because the United States is blessed. God has given us more than he's given most nations, and that we need to respond in ways that are helpful to our fellow man. But today, I hear my colleagues blaming a guy named Elon Musk for doing away with foreign aid. If anybody is to blame, it's us. It's the Congress of the United States for taking our eye off the mission of our country to provide aid to those around the world who need it. Millions of taxpayer dollars are being wasted on left-wing pet projects that don't benefit us here at home, that actively work against our interests and do not help those in need around the world. I believe that American taxpayer dollars should be spent making lives better for Americans and better for those around the world who have far less than we have.
17 days, folks. It has taken 17 days for Trump, DOGE, and the rest of his administration to get this country back on track, to expose the horrors that we've been told weren't there. And today, I'm sorry, but this is information that needs to be shared, and everyone needs to be made aware of it. Everything that DOGE has uncovered, all our tax dollars have been misused, and it is truly disturbing. There are demons running this nation, or we're running this nation, and we're running them out. But I'm going to let Senator Cynthia Lummis finish, and then we're going to roll right into it.
You know, I've been talking about our national debt since I was first elected to Congress in 2009. At that time, our national debt was just turning over from $9 trillion to $10 trillion. I was apoplectic. How could we let our national debt get over $9 trillion? Mr. President, today our national debt is $36 trillion. That's absolutely inconceivable. It's inconceivable to the American people. It's certainly inconceivable to the people in my state. They want answers. They want to know, where's all this money going? That's why they elected Donald Trump. They didn't like seeing people come into our country illegally. They didn't like seeing inflation make their lives harder, make their family pay $1,000 to $1,500 more per month with no change in their lifestyle. Inflation is eating away at the lives of American people. They're working harder than ever, and their dollars going less far. So now we're talking about Elon Musk being to blame. I'm proud that President Trump chose to include Elon Musk in his administration. because President Trump is already getting results, the kind of results that the Congress has turned a blind eye towards.
Well, would it shock you to learn that the United States government has been sending millions of dollars to Guatemala? Yes, upwards of $800 million to Guatemala via a laundry list of NGOs and organizations like USAID, and turn Guatemala into the child kidnapping capital of the world. Yes, our tax dollars, your tax dollars, funneled through USAID has led to over 190,000 Guatemalan children being kidnapped from Guatemala and then trafficked into the United States. And the horrors that unfold after that. What happens to these children? Are they killed? Are they disappeared? Sexually abused and thrown away like garbage? Our next guest wanted to break this story right here on Redacted. He has the receipts. He was just in Guatemala. He's just left Guatemala. He's in El Salvador now. He's safe and sound, thankfully. Please welcome independent journalist Ryan Mata to the show. Ryan, great to see you. I mean, sort of following what was unfolding while you were in Guatemala and getting these receipts, and it's an unbelievable story. Can you just paint a 30,000-foot level view of this for our audience? What have you uncovered?
Yeah, Clayton.
Before we continue this clip, if you could just do me a favor and hit that like, comment, subscribe, share, keep the truth going. This stuff is nonstop. I appreciate you every time you come in, listen, give me a moment of your day. And with that, let's go.
Yeah, Clayton. So you've had me on your show several times to talk about my documentaries, which expose the world's largest child trafficking network that's being ran by our government. So out of the last 4 years, there has been 452,121 migrant children have been trafficked from 180 different nations all around the world into America, where our government takes possession of these children and is now openly admitted to losing 350,000 of them. So after my last documentary release, I was contacted by the Attorney General of Guatemala, and she asked if I could come to Guatemala to sit down with her team and talk about the amount of children that are being kidnapped out of Guatemala. So I started digging into that, found out that 42 to 48% of those children have came from Guatemala alone. That means out of the last 4 years, 190,052 children have been kidnapped out of Guatemala, trafficked into America, and processed into this child trafficking network migratorily by our government. To put that into context, the population size of Guatemala is 15 million. Their child population is 7 million. So over 3% of their entire child population has been kidnapped and trafficked out of Guatemala into America. And they've done so through this network of NGOs that are all being funded by USAID.
So USAID, of course, is now being closed, shut down under DOGE, under Trump. Democrats are freaking out about it. They're trying to bring articles of impeachment against Trump. They're calling for Elon Musk's head. But what at the heart of USAID is an absolutely demonic, almost I would say satanic organization that has been involved in this. Now, you've got the receipts. So let's talk about what you've uncovered from the documents here and what you've seen during your time there in Guatemala.
So, Clayton, when I got contacted by the Attorney General, right, I hired a private investigator firm to track every penny that our government has sent to Guatemala over the last 4 years. So that number that you stated, we're right in the open, $797 million has basically been taken out of our taxpayer money and shipped into Guatemala, unaccounted for. There's no oversight over this money. And then he did me a favor. He went back all the way back to 2012. Guess what? $4 billion, over $4 billion has been funneled into Guatemala since 2012. And I have the receipts for that. So because my name has gotten pretty big in Guatemala, and they know they can't trust their government, they can't trust their news, it's all being ran by USAID, the government's rotted to the core, the only one good in that government is the Attorney General's office. I had a whistleblower come forward and handed me a thumb drive. And on that thumb drive is offshore bank accounts of Ambassador Todd Robinson, a previous Attorney General, Thelma Aldana. So Thelma Aldana is now a fugitive in Guatemala. She's on the run. She's being protected by our State Department. She's getting awards by Anthony Blinken. And I have her offshore bank accounts. A woman that was making $40,000 to $50,000 a year has offshore bank accounts, not just one, multiple, with millions of dollars in them, Clayton, millions of dollars. Yeah, Todd Robinson, the previous ambassador to Guatemala, who was the ambassador to Guatemala from 2014 to 2017, has offshore bank accounts with millions of dollars in them. And there was transactions taking place in those offshore accounts when he was the ambassador. And then he was promoted by Anthony Blinken to like the top narcotics cop of the world.
I don't know about you guys, but this just pissed me off. It truly pissed me off. Children. Children being trafficked by our own government. And they're hiding it from us, or they were hiding it from us. And I don't know who you listen to in the media, CNN, the cackling witches on the View or whatnot, but they don't want you to know this stuff. They got you out here twisted like a pretzel, and this whole thing with DEI and Trump and DOGE going and taking your money and doing all of this, that, and above. And no, this is actually what's going on. They are exposing the corruption of our government, corruption that has been going on for decades. Okay, stuff that, again, they told us was not existent, that this money was going to help others, and it's doing nothing but destroying lives. And they don't want you to know that. They're out there marching in the streets talking about they're doing this to us, they're going to do that to you. No, they're right here, and look, they got the receipts. Look, they can go and they can pull up everything, all the transactions, and how much that has been going to these unknown institutions, these offshore accounts, and these children, people, children that no one knows where they are. Many of them will never be recovered. But you keep listening to those evil Democrats over there. You keep listening to them. You church folk, I'm especially talking to you. Because you will stay up here and you will fight this tooth and nail and say this is a lie, this is of the devil, and blah, blah, blah. But then the whole time, you listening to a devil in the pulpit. Yes, I said it. There are a lot of them in the pulpit because the church has been infiltrated. But I'm not going to keep going down that rant. I'm going to just keep going. And I'm going to pause periodically because, again, I can't just let I can't just let it go without me saying anything.
Where it came from? Were these payments coming through these NGOs funneled from USAID?
Not yet. That's why I'm coming here to break this story, because we need somebody like Kash Patel. We need somebody like Pam Bondi, somebody that has access to get that information that I don't have access to. I just got lucky to get this thumb drive, and I promised them that I would put it out here and give it to the world. And that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm on your show. It's not my information. We need people at the highest level to investigate these criminals. And I got one more for you, Clayton.
Oh yeah, please.
So in this list is a declassified internal document from within Guatemala, and it looks like it would be the equivalent, I believe, of like our Secret Service or our CIA. Somebody at the highest level ordered this investigation, and this is what the previous president, Jimmy Morales, in 2017 was calling for an investigation into Todd Robinson, because allegedly Todd Robinson was raping little boys over here in Guatemala. So I get this document that was this investigation done into Todd Robinson in 2017, and I had it translated into English. And it basically states that Todd Robinson is, number one, a raging alcoholic. He's gay. He has 2 gay lovers. One of them works at the U.S. Embassy, and one was a Guatemalan national. This man would get drunk. There wasn't a meeting or anything that happened that Todd Robinson did that didn't involve drinks. He was a huge raging alcoholic, and he would throw these Diddy-style freak-off parties at his private palace in Guatemala, where he was having the cartels deliver little boys to his property. And there's allegedly that a 13-year-old boy was raped at one of these parties, and the mother filed a police report and an investigation into him. And he used his powers inside the Guatemalan police departments to destroy that evidence. And that's what Jimmy Morales was calling for, for an investigation into Todd Robinson. And that's why our government, our State Department, was hell-bent on overthrowing Jimmy Morales. If you go back to 2017, there was a coup attempt. And that coup attempt came a couple months after Jimmy Morales called for the investigation. And then at one of his freak-off parties, he gets so drunk that he goes and takes a gun from a security guard, starts shooting the gun into the air. The security guard tries to get his gun back. A scuffle breaks out. The security guard is shot in the leg, and nobody to this day has ever heard or spoke to that security guard again. And this is an internal document that I sent you this morning in an email from some office in Guatemala. And I've now given all this information to the Guatemalan authorities as well.
Who exactly is Todd Robinson, for our audiences not familiar with him?
That is a great question. Todd Robinson graduated from Georgetown University in 1985, And then in 86 was immediately picked up by our State Department. And since then, he's gone from organization to organization to organization. These are job titles that I don't know. I've never even heard of these positions, but they're somehow in our government. And then it goes all the way up to his last position, when he was just removed from his previous position. Give me 2 seconds and I'll pull that up here for you, and I'll tell you the exact title of that position. Wait for it. Okay, here it is. So he was just the Assistant Secretary of State for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs. So he's the top international narcotics and law enforcement officer in the world. And we now have the worst drug epidemic ever in American history. And that's the guy who's responsible for it.
And his bank accounts reflect millions of dollars in payments, offshore bank accounts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Has anyone in the Trump administration reached out to try to help with this at this point? Or, where do things stand? I know under the Biden administration, of course, they've tried to completely hide their connections to what has happened in Guatemala. Where do things stand now with the Trump administration?
I think what Trump's doing with USAID, I think there's a lot more to this story. I think we're going to find out in every single one of these Democrats that are going after and out there and trying to defend USAID right now. I think they're terrified that if Elon starts looking into the money and these organizations start getting audited, you're going to start to find a lot of these politicians, these unelected bureaucrats with offshore bank accounts. I couldn't figure it out. The Democrats, and when they're a politician, it made sense that USAID was funding NGOs, NGOs were donating to the political campaigns, and that money was coming back full circle. But the unelected bureaucrats, I couldn't ever figure it out. But now that I'm seeing all these offshore bank accounts, it's like, oh, okay, that money's going into an offshore bank account. That's how you're getting paid back.
What does the Guatemalan Attorney General's office hope will come of this by bringing this information to you, providing a thumb drive, these offshore accounts? What are they hoping that you'll be able to do in Guatemala?
I got this information, not from the Attorney General's, Clayton, from a confidential human source that brought it to me. I just delivered it to the Attorney General's office today. So they're just now receiving all of this information, allegedly, for the first time. I had sources that said that they've tried to get it to him before. Maybe it didn't make it to the right person, but now they 100% have it. And what they're looking for is they're looking for the cooperation. I was talking to him prior to this. They want the cooperation of the Trump administration. They want to work hand in hand with the Trump administration to completely eradicate corruption and hold every single corrupt government official inside Guatemala accountable, along with anybody from USAID or any American organizations that were working with the corrupt individuals. I interviewed a girl this weekend, Clayton, that could tell you how much money, within a few $100, how many quintillas can fit in a shoebox. I could pick up any bag in my room. She was the bag girl for these corrupt politicians in Guatemala, to the point where she could tell you exactly to like the thousandth of a dollar how much can fit in any bag, any container in a room. That's how much money she was passing around in cash for these guys.
What happened to these children?
These children are in America right now, and we need to find them. We need to get hands on them. Our government processed them migratorily. They put them into a system, and they've delivered them to unvetted, undocumented illegal immigrants all throughout our country. The worst things humanly possibly unimaginable are happening to these children right now. 100% fact that as we speak, in the time that we've been on this call, that 100% one of these migrant children is being raped as we speak. And our government vetted the adult that they gave that child to, Clayton.
All right, folks. That was intense. That's truly heartbreaking. And I've listened to this clip multiple times, and it just tears my heart up. Children, babies, that the only thing that they've known so far in their young lives is fear, pain, and suffering. Demons preying upon them, and just sick. And this is what the Democrats don't want you to know, because even though they might not be participating in the trafficking physically and such, they have a hand in what is actually going on. They're helping shift things around to allow the nightmare to continue. I'm going to drop the link in the description so you can listen to the full podcast. This was just a segment of that part, but Redacted is a really nice, really good show. I highly recommend it. There's a lot of great information in it. But again, that's all I have for you. God bless. Keep the truth going. Catch y'all next time.